So we'll do it right here on the On Patterson Network. We'll go over play-by-play, the best. Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is the Mike Missanelli podcast, a new venture here on Patterson. A little clunky opening, but listen, it's the first show, and we're going to be golden after that. My partner in crime for this venture from On Patterson himself, where he's got like a million jobs over at On Patterson, including being the beat writer for two sports, the Flyers, and of course your Philadelphia Phillies. We'll talk about both of those today. Anthony Sanfilippo, welcome, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing phenomenal, Mike. Thanks for the great introduction there. Yes, and we always start off a little bit slow, but we get better, right? So you set a baseline for these openings, and then each time we do it, it'll be better and better and better going forward.
It'll be smooth as cake icing in a little bit as we come on every Thursday at 2:00. This is a weekly show every Thursday at 2:00. We're on live, and of course you can stream it after the show. So first of all, let's get a little history here. Anthony and I have a long working relationship together way back. Now, it's funny because a lot of people say, Mike, you have a really large coaching tree. Well, I kind of do, but that's because I've been in the business for like a zillion years. So I don't know if it's like that much of a badge of honor, but you are part of my tree. We go way back when you were producing me when I was over at WIP, way back in the heyday of Sports Talk Radio.
Yeah, I started there in 1997, and I was there for 4 years with you up through 2001. So yeah, it goes back. I am part of the Mike Missanelli tree. That is for sure.
It's larger than Andy Reid's coaching tree, frankly.
That's true.
And doubly successful, by the way. All right, let's start. Speaking of football and Andy Reid, let's talk about the Eagles because they remain, Anthony, the top story in town, no matter how you slice it. So here's the question about the Eagles. I know there are a lot of people out there. In fact, I was asked yesterday in an elevator by a guy, what do you think of the Eagles? I go, they're good. I mean, they're 6-2. And they go, well, I don't know. They seem to be up and down. I go, 6-2 is not up and down. I mean, this is a really difficult league. There are a lot of really good teams in this league that during the ebb and flow of football season will lose a couple games. The Buffalo Bills, coming into the year, they were supposed to be unbeatable. They lose a couple, they struggle. All these good teams struggle from time to time. It's all about the biorhythms of a particular matchup on Sunday. So I think the Eagles are, and we're going to rank the power rankings in the NFC in a little bit. But give me your impression of what the Eagles are right now.
I think that the Eagles are, a couple of weeks ago, remember, Mike, there was this conversation, are the Eagles is this another version of the 2023 team, right? Where they got off to a great start and then they fell apart at the end of the year. And then they say, or is it the 24 team that got off to a slow start and then exploded and then went on to win a Super Bowl? I think it's somewhere in between. I don't think that it's the 24 team, but I also don't think everything's going to fall apart on this team either. The schedule's going to get a little difficult here and they might lose a few more games, but they're still a playoff team. They're still one of the best teams in the NFC, maybe in all of football. And they're going to have a shot to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and that's the way I look at it. I go, maybe it's because I've been in business for a really long time. I don't get fazed by losses every now and then. All right, so they're going to lose a couple games. Like they're 100 times better than the New York Giants. They lose to them. Like, how do you explain that? Well, it's just one of those games where the one cycle was down and the others was up, and so they lose the game, and then everybody panics in this town, which is why I love it for Sports Talk Radio, because they're so up and down, and it's so wildly entertaining to talk to all the fans out there. And by the way, you can text us along with this show and tell the people how they can get in on the live chat with us.
Yeah, so if you're watching us on YouTube, you can sit in there as long as you're a YouTube subscribe. You can put a comment in. We will see it on our stream, and then we can pop them up onto the screen for you to comment. If you're watching on X, which is through my X account, then you can comment, but you have to actually open the actual X thing to get. Yeah, there we go. See, look, we got a comment. Is this thing on? From Tim Kelly. There you go. Tim Kelly. This thing on. Tim Kelly, check it in. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how to do it, right?
Yeah, there you go.
And you can also comment on Facebook as well, and those populate as well, so we can pop them up onto the screen.
Fantastic. That sounds good. All right. So when we talk about the Eagles, it's funny. The one issue that never goes away is the dynamic of Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, specifically AJ Brown. And so the trading deadline is coming up, and all week I've been looking at these ridiculous trades where you trade a fifth and a sixth. AJ Brown with a fifth and a sixth, and you get a starting cornerback or whatever. Like all this nonsense. It's not going to happen. And I wrote a piece for On Patterson where I go, I look at guys like AJ Brown as just part of the landscape that you have to put up with. It's like, okay, he is a semi-diva. And when I say that on the radio, people went freaking out because they don't like any kind of criticism against their favorite player. But let's face it, look at all the little things that have added up with A.J. Brown, all of which means nothing to me because you decided to acquire a guy like that. You now have to make it work. It's always misguided. I always think it's misguided for a team to acquire a player who's got some checkered past in him and some diva-esque qualities in him, and then they expect him to be like Richie Cunningham. I don't know. I completely don't understand that. So here's the thing. He missed last week. He got an injury. A lot of people are saying, well, that was fishy. Maybe he was getting punished, whatever it is. But I'm sure people are going to play a game like that. They need to win games. And without A.J. Brown, let's face it, they've got one receiver who's great in Devontae Smith, but they don't really have a viable number two, with all due respect to my Penn State buddy on the other side who made a touchdown catch last week. But my point is, if you've got a guy like that, keep him happy. How do you keep him happy, Ant?
Throw him the ball.
You get him the ball. You get him the ball early. See, if I'm Kevin Patullo, and we'll talk about Kevin Patullo in a little bit because he's obviously under the gun a lot, being a new coordinator that a lot of people haven't felt out yet. I don't mean that literally, but it was the same with Kellen Moore. We didn't know what to make of him until they really got cooking. But to me, Kevin Patullo's got the easiest job of any coordinator in the league. He's got a supreme running game, which he'd be foolish to go away from because it was stopped for a couple of games. You got to figure out how to loosen that up, and they did it last week. They figured it out. But early on in the game, there's one unstoppable play that they have. It's the slant to A.J. Brown. It's unstoppable. I've never, ever seen it stopped, the quick slant to A.J. Brown. Get it to him early in the game, get him engaged, get him happy so he comes back with a smile on his face instead of, with the Mossies, as they say. So I don't know. How are you feeling about that radical offensive coordinator philosophy?
It's so radical. It's completely radical. For years and years, Mike, we've talked about how a running game sets up a passing game. But when you're the Eagles, you kind of do it in reverse. And that's kind of, the way Jalen Hurts plays quarterback, because he can run the ball as well as a quarterback. The Eagles found success using the passing game to set up the run last year. So why not go back to that in the sense of, like you say, throw a couple short passes, get AJ involved, get the defense thinking, okay, you might try this and then eventually try and go over the top. Let them, keep them honest. Get that eighth guy out of the box. And then when you have one less guy in the box, Saquon's got room to run. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And now, he did it just last week when he had an extra lineman in there, and they spread out a little bit with six offensive linemen, and that sprung Saquon very well. But Patullo is a really interesting case. He's got a quarterback. Again, let's talk about Jalen Hurts for a second, because I don't know. First of all, he's a little weird. Okay, let's face it. Jalen Hurts is a little weird, and I think that throws people off. From the total acceptance part of it, it throws people off. Like I had my Eagles postgame show, the first Eagles postgame show. He's got a Dalai Lama type quote almost every time he's in front of my microphone. And last week it was, "We're always in the process of becoming." No, let's face it. We all are in the process of becoming, right? You and I are in the process of becoming. But like he said, he uses that kind of an answer for a football question. But my point is, he can be so odd that people can't get a handle on it. I'm talking about the people nationally who evaluate him. Now, locally, I go, if you're going to get a perfect passer rating, I'm okay with you. I don't care how much you dazzle me. If you're going to be as efficient to get a perfect quarterback rating, I'm fine. I'll take that any day of the week. And last week had another a great quarterback rating game. And that moves the chains, and that moves the team up and down the field where they can score. I don't have any problem with that. And he does make some dynamic plays every now and then, but I'll take that kind of Jalen Hurts performance.
Yeah, look, Mike, the thing I've always said about Jalen Hurts, and this was the thing that was, all summer long was the big debate. Is he a top 5 quarterback in the NFL? Is that, none of that matters because the guy wins. And if the guy wins, it doesn't matter how he wins as long as he wins. It's not like Jalen Hurts is going out there and is terrible every game and the Eagles are winning in spite of him. He's managing the game properly, and the Eagles are playing to what he does well and what the team does well. So let him do that and let him be that. And, he can be as philosophical as he wants. He can say all the things that he wants to say, right? As long as the team's winning, it's fine. It's totally fine.
It's funny because he's even odder than Randall Cunningham.
Yes.
Randall Cunningham might have been the oddest player I've ever been around in sports, but Jalen out weirds him. But it's okay. I'm okay. Listen, if he's a pod, we find out later on he's a pod and an alien. I'm okay with that. But having him as a quarterback as long as the Eagles win. All right. So we got the trade deadline coming up. The Eagles, first of all, let's stay with Patullo for a second, then I'll get to that trade again, because the Eagles did make a trade to get a cornerback, which brings up a deeper subject that involves Cooper Dejean. But Kevin Patullo was asked in his media session this week about the heat that is on him, and here's the way he answered it.
Comes with the territory. I totally understand that, but really it's all about just winning games. And we know, we have a really good, talented team, and we're going to stick together, and we, live to our core values. And that's what we want to do. So it's been fun. I mean, the players have been all into it. The energy's been super high, no matter what's been going on. And we have not wavered from that standpoint. We're always looking ways to get better and improve on everything we do. So, obviously we know we want to continue to improve on anything and everything we can to get to the point, at the end of the season. But I feel like we're improving on certain things in a good spot. And, like I said, it comes to the territory, but I totally accept that and ready to keep moving on.
You're on mute, Mike.
He took the heat for it. I understand it. Blah, blah, blah. It comes with the territory, all that kind of stuff. The perfect answer. He could have said, "Screw those people. I'm the offensive coordinator. I don't know diddly about what I'm trying to do here." But instead, he went through it, which is the culture of the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah. That's the culture of it. Except for Fangio, who goes off on a wild tangent every now and then. Sirianni and Kevin Patullo are kind of tied at the hip, and they answer questions kind of the same way.
They absolutely do. And what do you expect him to say, right? Like, I mean, do you expect him to say, "I'm feeling the pressure. I don't know what I'm doing here, and I got to figure it out during the bye week, and we'll have something different when we come back"? No, he's not going to say that. He's going to say, we have a process. We're going to keep getting better at what we do, and that's it. I mean, you know how it is. Press conferences, I hate them. I'm in them all the time. And I hate them all the time. There's not one press conference that I've ever liked except for AI. Like, that was the only press conference because it was so memorable, right? But beyond that,
have you ever been in a class? You have been in several clashes in press conferences with the Flyers and John Tortorella, right?
Yes. I've been involved with Torts. Yes.
So just this is off the tangent a little bit because I was at a famous press conference with Andy Reid once where I couldn't take it anymore, and I went down there because I didn't think they were asking the right questions. And it was the play where he used a backwards lateral from Ronnie Brown at the goal line, and you remember this play, and the ball got loose and the whole bit. And I couldn't understand why he would call a play like that down there. So I went to the press conference, and I had a blue come up with a question. I said, "Why would you use a play like that there?" And he said, "Well, we thought that was the best play to run there." I said, "Is that a play you would practice in a goal line situation?" And he goes, "Well, if you would come to practice, you would find out what we do." And I said, "Well, I don't need to go to practice to view a play as a bad play." And he said, "Well, you're being very bold." And so we played that soundbite for a long period of time. But explain your little clash with Tortorella.
Oh, well, my clash with Tortorella had nothing to do with me and John directly. It was because of a report that I had put out regarding, what was going on behind the scenes with one of the reasons the Flyers had to trade a prospect, Cutter Gauthier. And Tortorella didn't like my report.
It was the Kevin Hayes situation, right?
Well, yeah. So basically Cutter Gauthier, the Flyers had asked Kevin Hayes to kind of be like a mentor. There's the Boston connection there. And just kind of like, hey, kind of be a mentor for this kid. And so he kind of was, but then Hayes and Tortorella didn't necessarily see eye to eye. And so the kid kind of got colored into like, okay, well, do I really want to play for this guy? And then the Flyers were like, well, we're not going to guarantee you a spot on the roster right away. And so you put all those things together. And so I put it out there that these conversations were happening, and Torts went off on me. He flipped out because he didn't want that stuff out there. But
that went viral. He became
completely viral.
The Antichrist for a while.
Yeah, for a while. But the one thing I always say, Mike, and I still say today, because I'm still there, I still have a partnership with the franchise. I still get the management people to come on my show. Like, if they really had a problem with what I reported, would that be still happening today? And then consider where I might have gotten the information from. So
I hear you.
Yeah.
All right, let me
real quick, Mike. Before we move on, just you got some fans who just are commenting. I just want to pop
that. I'm looking at them right now.
Mike is back. LFG.
This thing on. Mike is back. Let's LFGGGGG.
Yeah, and then we got
a good combo, lots of knowledge and perspective. My guy, Mike, thank you very much. 215 in Philly, and then Nicholas P. Pasquale. I'm actually going to lose my Sixers 43.5 wins for the season bet. Am I going to actually lose that? We'll get to the Sixers in a second. Maybe that is in jeopardy. I would have never in a million years thought it would be. But let's move on to this trading deadline, Anthony, because I love Michael Carter II was acquired from the Jets. Now, he was a 2021 fifth-round pick, I believe. And they had signed him to a new deal, and he so kind of underperformed, so he was on the outs with the Jets. He's a corner. They have Keely Ringo there. They have Dory Jackson there. They have the other guy who's all banged up, Ja'Cory Bennett. And so now they add another one here. Now, the first thing that people talked about when they say they acquired this guy, because this guy basically is more of a slot than an outside corner. The guy that's playing nickel right now, the slot guy, is Cooper Dejean. And so people are going, is this an indication that Fangio is going to move Cooper Dejean to outside cornerback? Now, there's a million ways that we can look at this. So let's look at it the most obvious way. There hasn't been a white cornerback in this league in how long?
Jason Sehorn.
What, do you have to go back that far?
I think.
And what are we talking about? We talking about the early 90s?
I don't know if it's that far. I don't remember exactly. Like, I was the first name I thought of. Like, I couldn't think of one.
It is. Listen, we're both white, both Italian, but we're white. And so we understand the limitations sometimes of our race athletically. And a cornerback has not been a position that's been, frankly, suitable for the white man.
You're right.
If I could say
but
it
hey, it's a renaissance. We got some white running backs now, all of a sudden.
We do.
Right? Christian McCaffrey, Cam Shadabo.
We have white players at every position, and even the Eagles at safety can brag about it. But you'll see a defensive lineman, you'll see a linebacker, you'll see an offensive lineman, you'll see very few wide receivers, you'll see a couple running backs, you'll see obviously quarterbacks, but you don't see cornerbacks. So and here's the thing about Fangio. I think he believes that Cooper Dejean can play the corner. I think it's one of his favorite players. I don't think he thinks the kid has any limitations whatsoever. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But it seems like they have an overabundance now of the nickel guy.
Yeah. And so, well, first of all, you had mentioned that he's on the outs with the Jets. What does it take to get on the outs with the Jets? Right? As bad as that team is. And then their coach is a former cornerback.
When you play for a team like that, like showing up to work, I know people say, well, you're a professional, you get paid. But you show up for a team and you're going to get hammered every week. The one last week, and I lost a bet. I took Cincinnati last week, of all things. But so they win their first game, which is ridiculous. I don't know. I mean, how good is this guy? I guess you got to trust Howie Rosen. They've done enough scouting that this guy's going to help him.
Yeah. So I look at it. I think it kind of gives them some options, right, Mike? So I look at it and say, I still think Cooper Dejean's going to play in the slot in certain settings. But I also think when you're in base, he can play on the outside because you don't need that nickel. right? And so I think he's fine to play on the outside in that spot.
Yeah.
Whereas, maybe in certain, depending on who the opponent is and who the receiver is that's going to be in the slot, you say, all right, do we want Cooper inside on that point? We'll get away with whoever we put on the outside, whether it's Keely Ringo or whoever, Jacorian Benefit's healthy, whatever. Or do you say we'd rather bump Coop out there and put Michael Carter into the slot?
I think Fangio was also smart enough to know that what he's got is, I hate this cliche, but he is a Swiss Army knife where he can play him anywhere. And I think he's more valuable playing him in those various roles rather than straight outside corner. But I think Fangio is teased by the idea. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, look, and who knows? Maybe they go out and get another corner, right? And this guy is just for depth.
Trading deadline coming up. I don't think he's going to sit on his hands. All right, let me move on to the current power rankings in the NFC. Yeah. This has been an up and down sliding scale for most of the year. So I'll give you my power rankings right now where the Eagles are. I think the Packers, with the best record at 5-1-1, get a little bit of an edge as the number one. I got the Eagles 2 right now. Now they'll face a big game next week. Because I got that team 3rd. I got the Detroit Lions 3rd. I've got the Rams 4th. And for 5th, I got a tie between Tampa Bay and Seattle because I can't really differentiate between either team. But I got the Eagles firmly in that 2nd slot, just slightly behind the Packers right now, which is pretty good.
Yeah, and I think a lot will be determined over these next couple of weeks, right? I mean, you got the Packers, and then after the bye, and then you got the Lions right after that. I think that will reshape how we look at the NFC. But I think you're right on. I might have the Bucs a little higher. If they're healthy, that offense is really good. They've had some
ahead of
injuries.
the Rams.
Yeah, I do actually. I do. I think I think Baker Mayfield is really good, and he would be the leader in my mind if in the MVP race if all of his skill guys didn't get hurt. I mean, he lost his 3 top receivers were out for a game. The one game that they lost, and their starting running back Bucky Irving was also out. So when those guys are all healthy, I think that's a really, really good team.
Okay. Do you have them ahead of the Lions?
No, the Lions I would have 3.
I
would have the Bucs 4, Rams 5.
Pack, Eagles, Lions, Bucs, Rams.
Yeah, that's how I would go. Yeah.
All right, that's fair enough. All right, let's move on to the Sixers because we just got a comment saying, am I actually going to lose my Sixers bet under 43.5 wins for the season? Are you freaking kidding me with this team? They're 4-0. I didn't expect them to be 4-0. They haven't played great teams yet. But the one thing I've noticed, and I hate to go down this road because it invites the big question, are they better off without Joel Embiid? It's hard to swallow something like that because you can get conned into – you see a bunch of young kids flying up and down the court. It works temporarily, but it doesn't give you a solid foundation on how good of a team you are. But let's just pick them apart right now because I got to tell you that I have been wowed by VJ Edgecombe. I did not expect him to be this good of a player early. And what I thought about him was that he'd be a little wild in the NBA. He'd be like a little Ricky Council-ish. But instead, he's been the opposite. He's got a head on his shoulders. And I'm thinking, he hasn't played. He was he comes from the Caribbean. He was a high school player who was a highly touted high school player. He went to Baylor. He didn't like the world on fire at Baylor. And as soon as you get into the NBA, it's funny how these guys blossom. Same with Maxey. You couldn't really tell how good he was in a college system. When they get to the NBA, somehow they blossom like a rose. And he's been an amazing player for them. He shot the ball much better than I thought he would shoot it.
No, absolutely. And look, you should be excited about the Sixers because the one thing I'll say to you, Mike, is, obviously Embiid's been on a minutes restriction. They haven't had Paul George. They haven't had McCain, and they're still doing this. Now, do I think that Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe can play 40-plus minutes a night for the entirety of an 82-game schedule and put up the numbers that they're putting up? No, I don't. You're going to need these other guys at some point. But it's good to collect the wins now because when those guys are healthy or are able to play, you can kind of, figure out some other ways of playing the game and have different.
So figure those out for me right now. Figure out how do they implement Embiid, because they're completely different when he's off the floor. They really are. They're a 1-4 with him on the floor. They're a 5-man unit without him on the floor. So how did they implement this whole thing to get continuity?
That's the big question that Nick Nurse is going to have to figure out, right? And I think that, you can't just go away from Embiid when he's on the floor. When Joel Embiid is on the floor and healthy, he's still one of the most dominant players in the NBA. Still. You don't know if he's healthy. They're trying to nurse him through these minutes. Okay. Maybe we don't know this answer until February. Maybe we don't know. Maybe they don't start ramping him up to 35 minutes a night until the second half of the season. Maybe that's their plan and they're just not telling us that. But at some point, you're going to have to see how it all works with him playing those bigger minutes. Because if you don't, you run the risk of falling into something that's really inconsistent. And so I do agree that you do need to figure out something along the way. And of course, when Paul George comes back in, when McCain gets there, like, how is this all going to rotate? This rotation all going to work? They don't play any defense either. That's my other concern right now with them.
Yeah, but young kids don't buckle down on defense in the NBA until they're forced to buckle down. So let's, again, let's get back to Edgecombe, because Nick Nurse has some really interesting things to say about him. You can tell that he loves him. He put him in the starting lineup right away. I didn't think that was going to happen either. Grimes comes off the bench. It looked like they found a rotation where they can utilize Grimes better. But let's hear the head coach, Nick Nurse, and what he had to say about Edgecombe after a game the other night.
Again, VJ, everybody it's not that surprising to me. I think he's this good. I think he's this good, and I thought it right away. And he's, like I said, from the day we drafted him, he was where we asked him to be all summer long, every single day, and that was working. And he's got a tremendous engine to work every day, and you're going to get better when you do that. And I think that he's got such an athleticism to him. Like he's going to make some plays at the defensive end every night. You saw that tremendous block tonight out of nowhere. He's like a shot blocking two guard, right? He's going to block shots, and he's going to dart in the passing lane. He's going to knife over screens, and then the rest of it, I think he's just been so patient. That beyond his years. I didn't probably know he had that. Like his feel for the game and his tempo and all that stuff is really good, and he got a long way to go here, right? He's gonna have his ups and downs, but my whole goal, as I said, is minutes for him. His successful season's gonna be piled up in minutes, and 40 2 nights in a row is a good start.
That's Nick Nurse. Interestingly enough, things I noticed, the AI subtitles at first had him as Vijay.
Like Vijay Singh.
I didn't realize he was Indian. Edgecombe, right? A 6'4" guard out of Bombay. But in any event, he really likes him, and that's what counts. And so the Sixers are rolling. I mean, who knows? I think both the Sixers and the Flyers have overachieved, and we'll get to the Flyers a little bit. Let's take a breath here. Let's take a break, because on the other side, two sports that you cover. The Phillies and the Flyers, but the big Phillies issue, a very strange feud is laid out there between Bryce Harper and Dave Dombrowski. We'll go toe-to-toe with that. And also, I think it's really interesting, the dynamic in Philadelphia, where Bryce can say stuff like that and not be considered a whiner. When Embiid said it, he was considered a whiner. We'll get into all those issues right now. This is the Mike Missinelli podcast with Anthony Sanfilippo on Patterson, and we're back after this.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. Warm up this fall with an incredible seafood boil. Try the Uncle George with succulent snow crabs, tasty mussels, and shrimp. There's the Pete's Feast with 2 pounds of sweet succulent crab legs, a dozen shrimp, clams, and a pound of mussels. Or create your own boil. Add a lobster tail or a delicious Dungeness cluster. Include smoked sausage, corn, and potatoes, served in our tasty broth, made with white wine and our signature seasonings. A shellfish lover's dream at Chickies and Pete's. Hi, it's Pete from Chick.
This is Tommy Green from the 1993 National League champion Phillies. Every champion needs a good game plan. BCWSA and I want to make sure you have a game plan when it comes to conserving our most precious resource, water. Whether you're washing dishes, brushing your teeth, or watering your garden, there are ways you can save water and save money. Visit bcwsa.net for tips on conserving water. BCWSA, proven.
Think banking hasn't changed? Think again. At Penn Community Bank, we've been helping communities thrive for 150 years. From our nationally recognized Access Checking that offers the peace of mind of no overdrafts, to student and free checking plus options with perks that will make you wonder what you did without them, like early direct deposit, overdraft grace, and Zelle. Learn more at PennCommunityBank.com/products. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow. Account and feature terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. Ask for full details. Member FDIC.
All right, we're back on the Mike Pesnelli podcast on the Odd Patterson Network. Again, you can, if you're watching us, you can chat with us. Somebody mentioned Vernon Maxwell, VJ. VJ is, I think, well, it's a pretty good comparison. Well, Vernon Maxwell was a little wild. VJ hasn't shown that wild side. He's been very structured, plays good D. He's within the flow. Vernon was wild. So yeah. I get you. Okay, let's move on to the Phillies drama. Dave Dombrowski ruffled the feathers of Bryce Harper. I don't think he meant to, but just like Doc Rivers didn't mean to ruffle the feathers of Ben Simmons way back in the day when he made that comment after they lost the Atlanta Hawks, Bryce did not take it kindly. For the people that are out there watching the show, just kind of summarize what went on with Bryce and Dombrowski, Anthony.
So it starts off with Dave Dombrowski's season-ending press conference, which was I guess a week ago now that happened. And he was asked a question about Harper's season. And, Harper had a good season, but if you hide the name, you look at it and go, well, that's a pretty good season for whoever that hitter is. But then you take your hand over the name and you say, oh, that was Bryce Harper? Oh, that's not as good a season. So Dombrowski says, yeah, he wasn't in an elite season. And will he be elite again? I don't know. We'll see. That'll be up to him. And, it's a little poke. It's a little poke at the bear. That comment, I guess, spurred people to start to speculate that the Phillies might want to trade Bryce Harper. Now, that's ridiculous, right? They're not going to. I can promise you they're not going to trade Bryce Harper. That's ridiculous stuff that was out there. But that talk is what upsets Harper. So it's like, why did you come out to say that and create this narrative, even if that was not the intention? Like, why would you do that? And so Bryce responds to Matt Gelb of The Athletic and says that he was upset by the comments and that he doesn't like the trade conversation. He said, this is what I dealt with in Washington. I agreed to not, I went against the recommendation of my agent, Scott Boras, and said, I don't want an opt-out because I want to lock in. I want to be part of this city forever. And yet here we are 7 years in and the same stuff is coming up again.
Okay.
So that's kind of what happened.
Let me just say this. That's an out-of-line whine from Bryce Harper. Who's talking about it? People in baseball talking about a trade? No, people are speculating. It's people run wild in this day and age of social media. This is what happens. Well, might they trade him? Oh, they're not going to trade him. I get it. You can't trade him. But for him to get a little upset, and Dombrowski should have been smarter. You got to, these days you can't say anything about a player without a player reacting because players run the game. Let's face it. They're not going to kowtow to anybody, even general managers, whatever. And so that came off as, would he be elite again? And Bryce is thinking, what are you talking about? Would I ever be elite again? I'm an elite player now. And just because I didn't have a great year last year, that doesn't mean I'm still not an elite player. So I could see where he was ticked off to that. But the other part about the trade, and he went through this in Washington and blah, blah, blah. I had the same reaction when Joel Embiid came out and said, I'm not appreciating this town. Look what I've done for this town. Yeah, you've done a little bit. You haven't done enough to say you're without merit at all to be criticized. Am I wrong here?
No, not at all. I mean, Bryce has done more than Embiid. Let's be honest. He got the team to the World Series, right? I mean, so they didn't win the championship. I mean, Embiid's only gotten to the second round. So you could sit there and say Bryce has done more ultimately than Embiid has. They both won an MVP, but Bryce went further. But yeah, I think that you're right in the sense of there are two people who Bryce Harper should say are allowed to offer criticism. They are the owner, John Middleton, and the president of the team, Dave Dombrowski. No one else. Like, okay, if they did it. And do I think Dave did it a little intentionally? I do. I do think it was meant as a motivational thing. Dombrowski never says anything.
You think it was motivational, or you think he just misspoke?
No, so Dombrowski is one of those guys who never says anything. He's so media trained and so good at it that he never says anything unintentionally, right? He's very deliberate in what he says. So I do think there was something there. Where I think Dombrowski and the Phillies in general are wrong here is after it was said, they didn't go to Bryce. He gave them a little bit of time. Like he gave them a couple of days to go reach out to him and talk to him about it. And they didn't. So that's where their mistake is. They should have smoothed it over with him before he went public.
But maybe they didn't do that because they didn't think they said anything that was. But no, you're saying he's too savvy for that. He knew exactly what he was saying.
Yes. He knew exactly what he was doing.
All right.
And this is how I know, Mike. This is how I know. Right after Dombrowski, Rob Thompson comes out to meet with the media, and he says, knowing that guy, this will motivate him to have the best season of his career. It's coordinated. It's absolutely coordinated.
Okay. All right. That's fair enough. But let's talk a little bit about this dichotomy between Bryce Harper and Joel Embiid. How do you think that Bryce Harper is perceived by the majority of the fan base right now? Is he still hero Bryce, or are people starting to question?
I think there's a little bit of the questioning now. I mean, we're 7 years in, and you know, when you sign that 13-year deal, you always kind of assume the back end of the deal would be less than the front end of the deal, right? So you're starting to worry that time is running out, and he had a down season. He's had some injuries. And so you're kind of a little bit worried that, okay, maybe he's not going to be that guy that gets us there. But I think that he's such a panderer to this city that people.
But that's what I mean. Well, aren't we too smart to fall for the pander anymore?
Do
we still fall for the pander?
Are you and I smart enough? Yes, we're smart enough to know.
The majority of the fan base, you think, still falls for the pander. The fanatic gear that he wears, the different spikes, the headband where the hat is cocked a little differently.
Why would he still do it?
I look at it and go, I've had enough.
Well, yeah, but why would he still do it? Like he wore the rivalry gear this year. That was his new thing.
He doesn't get it. Honestly, I think this fan base is cynical enough to say, all right, I've had it with that. Unless you're hitting 320 with 45 bombs, then you can do anything you want, but you're not. So the pander now comes off as a little phony.
Yeah, but I think that the Phillies just in general are a little bit tone deaf with things like that, because I'll give you a perfect example. This has nothing to do with Bryce Harper, but in the playoffs, they just blow the lead against the Dodgers, right? And they bring in Joan Duran at home. They do the whole entrance thing. Yeah. The whole you know what I'm saying? So I think it's just the culture of the organization that is like, we know that there are people who are going to be with us all the time, so we're going to keep playing to them and not to the skeptics.
That is so blind to play that as he's coming in a game where they're lose. Like who makes a decision like that? Like that, you got to use that entry. You got to pick your spots with that entrance. That entrance only works when you're in a position of superiority, and they weren't.
Yes, correct. Do I think that somebody makes a decision on it like game to game? No, but do I think that someone could intervene and say, "Don't do the entrance right now"? Yes, and no one did in that spot.
That's stunning. All right, so let's get to Embiid.
Yeah,
I listen. Last year I was done, and I said it on the radio many times to the point where the Sixers stopped talking to me. They wouldn't give me an interview with Edgecombe when they drafted him. And they play these little games because I said that era of the Sixers is over. But the Paul George Embiid thing can no longer sustain. The Embiid thing, we've seen the best. It's not going to get any better. Your knees don't get better as you get older. And so I was done with the whole thing. I kind of wiped it out of my mind. Now I don't know how to feel about Joel Embiid. Had he done enough in his career to the point where we should appreciate him more or less? And where does it stand right now?
I think he's a guy, Mike, that we will appreciate more when he's done. I think in where he's at right now, I think there is so much negativity because of the fact that he's never healthy. He's come into seasons where he's not in the best shape and it takes him a while to kind of get there. where he's focused on things that don't matter to the city, like playing in the Olympics, right? Like that whole thing, I think, rubbed people in Philadelphia the wrong way. So I think that there are little things, he's Mr. Social Media troll and things like that. I think that there are certain things that certain people in the city go, you're focused on the wrong thing. Whereas Bryce Harper's never been that. Bryce Harper's always been about, even if he's pandering, he's always been about, I'm trying to win for the people of Philadelphia. And so I don't think Embiid's ever had that. And so I think maybe that's why he doesn't get as long a leash as Harper does.
Yeah, I'm done with him. I don't know. Like I can't summon any kind of energy that Embiid plays for the Sixers anymore, and I hate myself for that. But I've kind of been beaten down by the whole Embiid thing, and I know it can help him still in little dribs and drabs. I don't know how that's going to play out, but in any event, I just thought that I would bring this up. Back to baseball a little bit because I want to get your spin on how they rebuild in the offseason. But first of all, the World Series. Are you watching the World Series? Because I can't watch the World Series either.
I have been watching the World Series, and I'll tell you, I'm a little bit surprised. I thought the Dodgers were going to win this thing in 5 games. Toronto's done a nice job of just having good at bats against the Dodgers pitching and staying in the at bats and getting the starters out of the game, and then they just feast on the Dodgers bullpen, which is terrible. But the more surprising thing is the Dodgers haven't hit at all. The Dodgers have been awful at the plate, and now they're down 3-2 going back to Toronto. That's going to be a tough road to hoe for them to win 2 games up there.
I never thought that the Toronto Blue Jays they're a really interesting story. They're scrappy. They play the game the right way. I think they're fun if they would win the World Series, but if they win it, this would be one of those years where I got the best team didn't win.
Correct. Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt the Dodgers are the best team. The Dodgers are easily the best team in baseball. For anybody to say otherwise, even if the Blue Jays win, you're not watching the game. It just so happens that the Blue Jays played better than them in a 7-game series.
Yeah, and the kid from Boyertown. How about that? Trey
Savage. Yeah, that's unbelievable. Good for him.
Went off the minor league mat to dominate in the big leagues. It's been pretty fun. All right, Anthony, let's get into the Phillies. A lot of people want to know what you think that's going to happen next year. I said it during the season that there are 2 things they had to do. They had to sign Schwarber. They had to sign JT Realmuto. You can't do any better at those 2 positions. You just can't give up on a guy who's a 40-plus 50 bomb guy, and you can't give up on a catcher who still's got a little in him because catching around the league stinks.
It does.
And you can't afford not to have JT Realmuto back, and that puts him in a pretty good position. But it also makes it an interesting dent in the payroll on what you think they're going to do. Where do you see wiggle room? Where will they change next year?
Yeah, well, so the change is certainly going to come in the outfield. We obviously know that. Nick Castellanos will not be back. Max Kepler will not be back. Justin Crawford is going to play here in some role, whether it's in left field or center field. We'll wait and see. And then everything else is in flux. Harper, Turner, Stott, those guys are in. I'm not sure Alec Bohm is back, Mike. I think that he's a guy that gets moved.
What's the value for Alec Bohm? Everybody's saying he can get moved. What can you get for Alec Bohm?
You're not getting a prospect. Can you get another player that's similar in age to him, that is a year away from free agency, who maybe plays another position and can help you? I think so. I think you can. If you're one of the things we're saying, if you were going to talk to the Angels about trading for Taylor Ward, who hit 30 home runs for them last year, but he only hit 220, right? Would you? They don't have a third baseman. Would you swap Bohm for Ward, knowing Ward's going to be a free agent in a year? That kind of player. That's what I think you can do. I don't think he's back. As far as Schwarber, Realmuto, I really believe Schwarber's back, and I'm pretty confident Realmuto is going to be back. But the only reason I'm not as confident with Realmuto is I think you give yourself some more options if you don't bring back Realmuto, because then you can finagle some other money around and fill other needs. Because do you then, if you don't sign Realmuto, do you sign an Alex Bregman and get that player that you need to be behind Harper in the lineup?
You settled the third base situation. What about catcher?
You're going to have to trade for a young catcher and do a tandem with Rafael Marchand. So you're going to take it. You'll take a step back, but the step back from the production Realmuto is giving you to what a young up-and-coming catcher would give to you is not as far as the improvement as you get from putting Bregman in place of Bohm. So, like, to me,
Right.
that's the one thing you can do.
Suppose they don't get Bregman.
Yeah.
Is Aiden Miller a viable option to be a starting third baseman next year? In other words, both of those prospects start for the Phillies.
I don't think at the start of the season. I could see the Phillies kind of going for the first few months with like a tandem there, whether it's.
Please don't give me Otto Kemp. Please not.
Well, Otto Kemp and Mundo Sosa, right? Like some kind of combo there. And then Aiden Miller comes up halfway through. I don't know. Look, he could have a great offseason, looks phenomenal in spring training and win a job. He had a really good second half of the year in Reading, but he's never played above AA. Let's get him to play, at a higher level first and see if he deserves to be called up to the major leagues.
Okay. The bullpen situation. The starting situation is fine. You're going to lose Ranger Suarez. Okay. They've got still 5 starters. If Painter is your 5th, and I think they'll give him a shot to be that. But now your bullpen situation. Talk to me about it.
Well, it's better going into the off season than it was at the end of last season, because you knew they weren't going to bring back at least one of Hoffman and Estevez. Ends up that they didn't bring back either one, but they didn't have a Duran, right? So having Duran is a great starting spot for it. They have lefties. They're probably going to bring back Alvarado. I asked Dombrowski about this, and he basically admitted that they're going to bring him back. And you still have Strom and you still have Banks. So you still have 3 lefties that are relatively reliable, for a bullpen. It's the right-handers before you get to Duran where you got concern. Robertson's not going to be back. Who knows what Kerkering's going to be after the way his season ended, right? With that boneheaded play to end this game 4 against the Dodgers. And you have nothing else really in the system that's right-handed and ready to come in. So that's where I think that the Phillies are going to have to go get somebody. Question is who? Do they want to get guys who throw 99 miles an hour but don't have great command? And so you got guys who walk a lot of guys, like a Ryan Helsley. Boy, he was a disaster for the Mets after they traded for him from St. Louis. So like there's not a lot that's going to be out there. Again, I think that they're going to have to do more via trade than they are in free agency, because the free agency.
Yeah, I agree. So we're talking about 5 guys now: Durant, Kerkering, Alvarado, Banks, Strom as the 3 lefties that definitely need a right-hander. That's the 5 that you think will be back.
I think Kerkering will be back. I mean,
he's a righty. They have to give him a leash.
Yeah, I think he'll be back. So, but they need another right. They certainly need another right-handed reliever.
They need 2 righties, actually. So,
yes,
we'll see how that works out. All right. Last question. It was an 18-inning marathon World Series game. Ended deep into the morning, 2:30.
3 a.m. here.
3 a.m. Would the Philly fans would have sold that game out? 100%. What percentage of fans would have been left in that building at that time?
So let's keep in mind that it was 3 a.m. here, but it was only midnight in Los Angeles, right? So if it was midnight, that place is still
everybody stays.
Everybody stays.
If it's 3 in the morning.
If it's 3 in the morning, you probably lose about 15% of that crowd, I think.
15 is all?
Yeah.
85% of the people will stay?
Yes. Because it's a
you're not counting the kids who are out late at night in the clubs saying, hey, the Phillies say we can get in right now. Let's go over there. They would add 5,000.
I would add 5,000 people. Like in 1993 when they played till 5 o'clock in the morning, right? 4:40 in the morning.
Exactly.
Yeah, all the people showed up at the vet. Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, I just think it would have been chaos if the Phillies were in that spot playing an 18-inning game on the West Coast. What would this city have been like? Like, that would have been crazy to me. Social media would have been bonkers. It would have been bonkers that night.
All right, let's take a break. Coming back, we're going to talk some Flyer hockey and also the gambling dilemma that the NBA has right now, to the point where I think they got to go back to policing it. Instead of opening the gates to this, I think they got to go back and policing it and prohibit anybody who's involved in the game from betting on it. And also a little later, just on a personal note, I had been doing a podcast a little while ago, a true crime podcast on a murder that happened in my hometown over 60 years ago. That was an unsolved cold case. and it was solved yesterday. And I was at the press conference. I'll talk a little bit about that for the people who followed me along on that podcast, because justice was finally done yesterday, and I feel really good about it. I feel really good for the family, the Doherty family who resided in Bristol, who had to go through that kind of a tragedy. And also, my picks of the week, where I'm going to display my philosophy on how I pick games. And listen, I'm not saying I'm like a millionaire from betting games, but I think I have a pretty good system where I don't do any of the research at all. I let the books do all the research for me, and I just follow along on what they're telling me. I'll explain how that works. It's called The Line is Telling Me Something. That's coming up on the Mike Missanelli podcast with Ant Sanfilippo on the On Patterson Network. We're back after this.
Your day-to-day life is hectic between having to pick up the kids, make dinner, the countless other tasks that you got to get done. Rob's Automotive and Collision is there to make your life a whole lot easier. Make sure you take advantage of their spacious waiting rooms, the large flat-screen TVs, complimentary coffee and muffins, and free Wi-Fi. So even when you do have to stop, Rob's is there to make you feel right at home. Give Rob's a call today at 215-826-9200 for any of your auto repair needs. A flawless occasion begins at the Capitol Grill. From the moment you step into the Capitol Grill, located in the heart of Center City, the experience is one of comfortable elegance. Whether you're looking to host a private affair, a perfect lunch stop, or dinner destination, start your occasion at the Capitol Grill today. Visit thecapitolgrill.com or call 215-545-9588. That's 215-545-9588 for the Capitol Grill, Center City.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. Warm up this fall with an incredible seafood boil. Try the Uncle George with succulent snow crabs, tasty mussels, and shrimp. There's the Pete's Feast with 2 pounds of sweet succulent crab legs, a dozen shrimp, clams, and a pound of mussels. Or create your own boil. Add a lobster tail or a delicious Dungeness cluster. Include smoked sausage, corn, and potatoes, served in our tasty broth, made with white wine and our signature seasonings. A shellfish lover's dream at Chickies and Pete's.
Think banking hasn't changed? Think again. At Penn Community Bank, we've been helping communities thrive for 150 years. From our nationally recognized Access Checking that offers the peace of mind of no overdrafts, to student and free checking plus options with perks that will make you wonder what you did without them, like early direct deposit, overdraft grace, and Zelle. Learn more at PennCommunityBank.com/products. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow. Account and feature terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. Ask for full details. Member FDIC.
All right, we are back on the Mike Missanelli podcast on the On Patterson Network. Let's talk a little bit about the Flyers. Anthony Sanfilippo covers the Flyers on Patterson, and I got to admit that my Flyer knowledge in the modern day, it wasn't like the old days. A lot of people don't remember. My first job was with a couple of daily newspapers where I actually covered the Flyers as a beat writer. So I go way back. I covered the team, Anthony, that went 35-game unbeaten streak.
Yeah. 79-80.
So, back in the day, I covered hockey. I knew a lot about hockey. Right now, you know more about hockey than I do. So let's talk about this particular Flyer team under Rick Tocchet. I heard him talk about the other day that they're playing with a pack mentality. They're also getting an unlikely lift from a goalie who's pretty unexpected. Assess what the Flyers are right now.
Yeah, and the big concern for me coming into the season, Mike, was goaltending because it was so bad last year. I mean, that was Sam Ersson, and then the 2 guys that they had in net, Ivan Fedotov and Alexei Kolosov, that were the backups. All 3 were not good. Flyers went out at free agency and signed Dan Vladar. Dan Vladar was not a name that excited a lot of people because he was a backup. He's been a career backup, right? And so they thought, okay, this guy's just going to come in and just kind of platoon with Ersson, and they're just going to kind of muddle through another year, and maybe next year when the salary cap opens up, they'll be good. They've got off to a 5-3-1 start. And of the 9 games, 8 of them have been really close 1-2 goal games all the way through. Only the one loss to Winnipeg did they not look like did they look overmatched. And Vladar has been the primary reason for that. He's been excellent. He's not allowed more than 2 goals in any start that he's had so far this season. And look, it's early. It's October. We'll see if he can continue this. He's going to be in net for the upcoming bid. He's going to play tonight. Ersson tweaked his groin in practice yesterday, so Vladar is probably going to start at least the next 2 games, and then we'll see what happens after that. But yeah, he's been really good, and the team's playing really well in front of them. They're doing a nice job. They're limiting shots. They still don't have, the superstar talent, but Zegras has been really good. He was an offseason acquisition, Trevor Zegras. He's tied for the team lead in points with Sean Couturier, who looks like he's found the fountain of youth after 2 seasons coming off of the back surgeries. So yeah,
and getting out of the doghouse.
Yes, and getting that was
Yeah.
believe me, when I tell you that was a bad relationship, that was a bad relationship. And then the line, Noah Cates, Tyson Forster, Bobby Brink. Everybody thought that was going to be the equivalent of like a third line. They're playing second line quality, maybe even at times first line quality for the Flyers. So it's really good. And by the way, they made a small trade today. I just want to announce the trade because it's a hockey name for you, Mike. It's a name. Okay, I know how much you love hockey names, right?
Yes.
The Flyers traded Samu Tuamala. They traded him to the Dallas Stars in exchange for defenseman Christian Kyrou. Tuamala was a second-round pick in 22. Kyrou is a second-round pick in 23. Kind of a change of scenery for both. The Flyers think Kyrou can eventually make it to the NHL as possibly a third-pair defenseman.
So that guy was Finnish that they traded, not Samoan, right?
Yes, he was Finnish. Samu is his first name.
All right, so not a Samoan.
No, he's
that
Finnish.
Plays nose tackle. Right?
No, he's not.
Fin. Okay, I know those Finnish names.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Well, so we follow the Flyers all the way through. Are they a playoff team? It's too early to tell?
It's too early to tell. I think so. I think if they stay healthy, they can be. But the one thing that the Flyers lack, in my mind, is depth behind their current roster. So if you lose a guy or two and you got to start bringing guys up from the AHL, I don't think that they have the depth to keep it going. I think that's where I think they could fall short. But it's going to be incumbent upon the goaltending. Really, I mean, if the goalies are good and doing what they're doing now, yeah, they can get in. They can be one of the wild card teams.
All right, because the reason I'm asking you is I wanted to make a bet, which leads to our next discussion point.
Oh, okay.
The NBA betting scandal. Now, it snared a couple of people. Interesting, Terry Rozier, which I look at that and I go, that's too shaky, man. When he takes himself out of a game and they play the under. The prop bets are what's really alarming the FBI in this investigation. And so what they've done, they've opened it up to anybody can bet at this point. And I think that's a big mistake because I think that the more and more here's the thing. People say, well, eliminate the prop bets. Well, that's a tremendous source of revenue for a betting book. They're not going to just say, oh, okay, sure. You want us to eliminate the prop bets. This is our business. It's not your business. You hit your own situation there. So I think they've got to go back to, put you in jail if you bet. If you're associated with the sport, you're a player, you're a club, whatever you are, the FBI is going to be studying your habits just like the old days and crack down on you. I know it's a looseness society, and it seems like it's almost impossible to do with the advent of all these betting books and all the money they're pumping in, advertising to these organizations and the NFL and stuff like that. So where do you come up on this, Ant?
I'm concerned, Mike, that this is just the tip of the iceberg, and not just for the NBA. Like, I think that this is something that could have tentacles in other sports, and we just don't know about them yet. I mean, obviously, we know about what happened in baseball, right? With the Cleveland Guardians and their pitchers. Clase is probably never going to pitch again in Major League Baseball because he was betting on his own prop bets on his own first pitches that were outside the zone. And then you've had other scandals in the NBA, and I bet you the NFL, there's going to be something that's going to come there too, because that's the sport that's bet on more than any other. And so it wouldn't surprise me if more and more comes out. And then you got to figure out how to regulate these guys. And you're right. I think it needs to be a crackdown that they cannot bet at all, period. That's got to be completely eliminated, because otherwise you run the risk of your sport not being – you're violating the public trust with the sport.
You got this guy – the Inquirer did a pretty good story on it. The guy's name is Hennen. And he paid off a lot of these bets in Philadelphia, and he was part of a series of investigation on bet fixing scandals that involved Temple University player Hasir Miller, Jonte Porter, of course, who was taking advantage of the prop bets, Chauncey Billups, and Terry Rozier. Here's the thing that's so easy with the prop bets, Dan, is that you can take a marginal player and bet that he's going to go on the under because he might not play enough minutes. I think that's what, if they're going to make any kind of adjustment and make a compromise with the sports books, don't they have to just stick with the major players that are involved in a prop bet?
Yeah, that's the other thing, right? You're smart. You're smart with that. Like you can't have prop bets for reserves and guys who may or may not even play, because you do open yourself up to more possibilities of fraud, right? Like of this happening. So yeah, but I would just make it, Mike, so that they can't be involved. Like they can't, if it's automatic, it's death sentence, an automatic death sentence. Like you can't gamble on sports, period.
Yeah. No, I agree with it. I hate to be the curmudgeon like that, but it's funny. I'm looking at the various sports. Baseball seems to be the sport that's less immune to the prop bet because you got guys that aren't trying to strike out on purpose. Right. You got guys that can't hit a home run when called upon. But how else can you influence the game baseball wise? So I think that's the safest sport that you can bet on without the FBI looking down your throat.
Yeah, just the pitchers. That's the only one. Like Class
pitchers. Yeah, like how can you set a prop bet that the pitch one is going to be a ball?
Yeah,
like how do you set that? I mean, it's so easy to manipulate. It's almost ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what's happened, and that's what it wasn't just him. There was the second pitcher with the Guardians. His name's escaping me at the moment. But yeah, I know. So you got to be careful with that. And look, this goes back, Mike, over 100 years, right? I mean, gamblers were trying to fix the World Series in 1919. Like we know about this, and we know that there was history also shows that they had influence in other games back then as well, not just that World Series. It's like this is not something that's new, but we went through a long period of time where we never had this happen. We didn't have these problems other than Pete Rose, right? Yeah. That was it. But we didn't have that. So, and why? Because the rules were so strict on gambling that it's got to go back to that for the players. Otherwise, who knows where this could go.
If you could set a prop bet on this show, like if there's any bookies that could set a prop bet on this show, it's like Mike and Anthony will take their first commercial break at 10:20. We make a lot of money on that.
Yes.
Yeah, we would
know when it is.
I would intentionally go past 10:20.
Yeah.
We can make a lot of money on that. All right, let's continue with the betting because I'm about to unveil my system. It's not really a system, but people say, well, people come to me and they go, I'm going to bet this game because their defense is better than the other team's offense, and they get to the quarterback more. And I go, you're wasting your brain power. It's like let the bookie set a line and look at the line. All you have to do is have a general knowledge of these teams. Now, I'm more successful in college than I am in professional football. I'll tell you right now. I can't tell one to the other on a point spread on NFL, and I just blindly kind of guess with that, unless I see a line that gets my attention. But if I see a line that's out of whack, right, a line that is out of whack, you go, that's too good to be true. It usually 80% go the other way. And I also look at line moves. If I look at a Vegas Insider, and they set the opening line, and then they go down the line as the days go on, and you'll see a severe line move in a game. And when I see a severe line move, I go, there are professional bettors out there that are laying a lot of money because they have some kind of an edge on this game. I don't have the edge on the game. I couldn't care less. I'm not going to examine the game. I'm not going to look at the offense versus the defense, whether the quarterback is shaky or I can. All I do is the smart people who bet for a living push that line up or down, then I'm on it. Does that make any sense to you?
See, Mike, you can make a lot of money as a tout using what you call the coattail system, right? Yes. You just ride the coattails of the sharp money.
Bookies' coattails. They do all the work. They extrapolate all the data to people say to me, no, Mike, they just set a line where it's going to be moved on one. No, but they have to set an initial line based on how they think the game's going to come out. Who's better than the next game or the next team? So when they set that line, I go, that gets my attention. I didn't see it that way. I have a casual interest in this game, but that line tells me a little something.
Yeah, it's good. That's a good theory. It's good. And I think you're right. I think college sports
a lot
lines
easier.
are a lot easier to read than in the pros. For sure.
Right. All right. Now, with that theory, I'm going to look at one game in college this weekend, and then I'm going to go against my theory and go, that team's better than that team, and therefore I'm taking them. All right. So let's just stay with college, and I look at the Miami game. Miami is at SMU. Anthony, this game started out Miami -2.5.
Okay.
You know what it is now? Miami -12.
What?
A 10-point line swing. Now, that tells me that some sharp money has come in on this game, and they love Miami. For whatever reason, they know more than me. They like Miami that much better than SMU, and the line inches up and inching up. Now, what that tells me is that Miami wins this game easy by at least 2 touchdowns. So I'm going to ride with Miami this week.
There has to be an injury. I've never seen a line jump 10 points.
The lines will jump that way without an injury. Now, I don't know if it's an injury or not, but even if it's an injury, that makes me feel even better about it, that Miami romps in this game, because it's so easy from a line 2.5 to take 12 with SMU. You go, well, SMU is only 2.5. They must be pretty good. So I'll take the 12. That's the wrong way to look at it. Now, here are 2 games. There's a slight line move on this. Syracuse against Bill Belichick and North Carolina. The Tar Heels stink. Syracuse is at home in this game. If Syracuse is ever going to win a game substantially, it's going to be in its game against North Carolina at home. So Syracuse went from a pick 'em to -2. Slight line move. All right? So I'll take the orange to cover that 2 against North Carolina. And then the third college game that I like is I think Rutgers stinks.
Mm-hmm.
They always have stunk. They stink every year. They can't compete in the Big Ten. And so they are an 11.5-point underdog against Illinois. The game is at Illinois. So I think the Illini are a much better team than Rutgers. I think they'll cover that easy. That has nothing to do with any kind of a line move. All right, so now let's get to the pros, where there's been a substantial line move in a couple of the games. The Packers have gone from 7.5 to 13.5 against the Panthers. That's telling me a little something. That's a high line. A lot of people like the Panthers last week. They got hammered by the Bills. So that line is telling me a little something. Here's another one. The Rams, -9.5. They jumped to -14 against the Saints. I'll lay the wood on both of those games. Here's another one.
I think that was a quarterback change for the Saints, which bumped that line.
Exactly. But both quarterbacks are the same. They both stink. Right? Like, it's not like the backup is going to stink any worse than Spencer Rattler.
Yeah.
All right. So here's the other one. The Ravens at 5.5. They've gone to -8 at the Dolphins at Miami. They've jumped up as an 8-point favorite on the road. So that gets my attention as well. And I'll ride with the Ravens. And the last one is that the Lions -4.5 went to -9 versus the Vikings. So a lot of line jumps this week, and I'm on all of them, man.
You're going all favorites too. No dogs.
No dog. And I'll throw another one in because I like this game as well. The Texans, they went from getting 1.5 to -1.5 points against the Broncos.
Yeah,
Broncos, good team. Money coming in on the Texans tells me a little something. Now,
look, Steve agrees.
I don't know. That Steve Hartman just jumped in and said the line that speaks to me is used to -1.5 points over the Broncos. That is a game that I will definitely play. I'm going to play 4 games this weekend. You tell me how I did. Syracuse, Illinois, Miami in college, and the Texans against the Broncos.
Okay, that's good. I like it.
Now, I'm not associated with any team, so the FBI doesn't have to investigate me.
I'll give you one that I like, Mike, in the
Go
NFL
ahead.
this week. Why are the Steelers, and I know the Colts are off to a good start, why are they a 3-point dog at home in that game?
The Steelers?
Yeah, Steelers have played well. Even in their losses, they've played well.
Well, I won't touch the Steelers right now. I have no faith in that team.
I'll tell you, I think the Steelers outright beat the Colts this week.
Okay,
Colts are playing over their head.
You're saying an outright win.
An outright win. I'll go with on the underdog side. I'll take the Steelers against the Colts.
You're going outright. So you're not buying the Colts hype.
Well, I think they're a good team, but are they going to go? Are they going to improve to 8-1? Like that's a little much to me. It's a tough game, tough place to play at Pittsburgh. I'll take the Steelers in that one.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Sounds good. All right. Let's take one last break. We'll come back and we'll just have some little throwaways. I want to pay tribute to a couple of people who passed away. Really shocking in both situations. And then talk a little bit about my podcast. And there's a big game at Lincoln Financial Field coming up on Saturday. Michael Vick versus Deshaun Jackson. Who would have ever in a million years thought that those two guys would be the head football coach of a Division I team?
Unbelievable.
That's coming. We'll take a break. We'll come back. It's the Mike Missinelli podcast with Anthony Sanfilippo on the On Patterson Network. Back after this.
This is Tommy Green from the 1993 National League champion Phillies. Every champion needs a good game plan. BCWSA and I want to make sure you have a game plan when it comes to conserving our most precious resource, water. Whether you're washing dishes, brushing your teeth, or watering your garden, there are ways you can save water and save money. Visit bcwsa.net for tips on conserving water. BCWSA, proven.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. Warm up this fall with an incredible seafood boil. Try the Uncle George with succulent snow crabs, tasty mussels, and shrimp. There's the Pete's Feast with 2 pounds of sweet succulent crab legs, a dozen shrimp, clams, and a pound of mussels. Or create your own boil. Add a lobster tail or a delicious Dungeness cluster. Include smoked sausage, corn, and potatoes, served in our tasty broth, made with white wine and our signature seasonings. A shellfish lover's dream at Chickies and Pete's.
Your day-to-day life is hectic between having to pick up the kids, make dinner, the countless other tasks that you got to get done. Rob's Automotive and Collision is there to make your life a whole lot easier. Make sure you take advantage of their spacious waiting rooms, the large flat-screen TVs, complimentary coffee and muffins, and free Wi-Fi. So even when you do have to stop, Rob's is there to make you feel right at home. Give Rob's a call today at 215-826-9200 for any of your auto repair needs.
Back on the Mike Missinelli podcast on the On Patterson Network. Just a couple of little quick stories on the Flyers. You got me thinking about the days that I covered them. When I covered them, Pat Quinn was a coach. Bob McCammon was a coach, but also Pat Quinn was a coach. He wound up getting fired. When Pat Quinn got fired, they still owed him some money. He decided to go to law school. Pat Quinn was in the same law class that I was in at Weiner Law School. And I used to see him walking around law school, and he smoked a pipe, if you remember.
Yes.
The old wooden pipe. And of course, smoking was allowed back then. And he would go around campus and he'd be smoking a pipe, going to his classes. He was loved by the ladies. They loved him. A tall, handsome guy with a pipe, like father figure type of guy.
That's just Delco, Mike. That's all that is. That's Delco.
A little later, when I was doing radio, Peter Laviolette was one of my favorite guys. We had the Peter Laviolette show, which I hosted.
Yeah.
We did it at Ponzio's in South Jersey. That was the year that they lost their first 3 games. Or was it the first 2 games? They lost 3 in a row. He got fired.
Yeah.
He got fired after 2 or 3 games.
Yes.
We did one Peter Laviolette show. but they had sold the remote. So I was at Ponzio's. It was the Peter Laviolette show without Peter Laviolette. He got fired.
Did they ever send a replacement? Like the guy who got hired?
No. We just kind of let the show kind of evaporate. It was no longer the Peter Laviolette show. It was totally unexpected that they would fire him at the 3 games.
Oh, that was wild.
All right, let's move on. Michael Vick, Norfolk State, Deshaun Jackson, Delaware State. Big game. Norfolk State not having a great year. 1-7.
Yeah.
Did you see this coming at all? No. Now, it's fun. It's interesting. HBSU schools is a good starting ground for a lot of guys. Like Eddie George, who's now I think at where's he? Bowling Green, maybe. But anyway, he got a job after being in that conference, and then of course Deion Sanders, the big example for that. I never saw these guys as being the most organized, disciplined guys to head a football program.
Vic, I could see a little bit more than Deshaun. but only a little bit. Like I could sit there, go, okay, all right, I could see Michael Vick kind of doing it. But Deshaun Jackson as a head coach of a football team, and look, he's having success. They're
not bad, are they?
Right?
Yeah, God bless both of them. I'm glad that Michael Vick. Of all the guys that I've covered in this town, like he made the most progress as a human being that I've ever seen. I mean, he turned into an upstanding guy, like right in front of our eyes after he went through those troubles. He was really a well-respected guy when he came to Philadelphia.
Deshaun's favored by 20.5 tonight, Mike.
Is that right?
Does that line tell you something?
That line is telling me Deshaun hammers Norfolk State. I'm going to get a little Deshaun Jackson money going on this game. 20.5?
20.5.
Wow. All right. A solemn part of the program here. I've known Pierre Robert for a really long time. Of course, I was the morning guy at WMMR for a short period. We were the Philly guys, the show. It was myself, Joe Conklin, and Vinny the Crumb. We were the morning team before Preston and Steve. Can you imagine they hired Preston and Steve? But in any event, Pierre used to follow us, and I got to be really friendly with Pierre Robert. There could not have been a sweeter man than this guy. I mean, he was just a gem of a guy. And it's shocking to hear the news yesterday they had passed away. There are new details on it, but I can tell you for the people that they go, well, he must have been into this. No. Pierre Robert turned into a workout freak. He used to lift weights almost every day and transformed his body into like a really sculpted body. He was really serious about his workout. So I don't think it was anything untoward. I think maybe, I don't like to speculate, but that's a really sad day to lose a guy like Pierre Robert.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know Pierre as well as you did. I met him several times, but didn't have a personal relationship with him, but just loved his show, man. I never heard a guy who loved music more than this guy did. I mean, you could tell with every interview he did or with every time he would talk about a song or talk about an act, just how much he really loved what he did and loved the music. And
God rest his soul. And while we're at it, also shocking, on the same day, the great Harry Donahue passes away. I did not know that he was battling cancer, but apparently he was another gem of a human being. And just another nice man, years at KYW News Radio, involved with the Temple Athletic Program as their broadcaster for many years, broadcasted a lot of he had those dulcet tones as a great broadcaster. So really sad news.
The thing I used to look forward to in the wintertime when I was matriculating at St. Joseph's Preparatory School was looking out the window and seeing the snow.
Oh, an aristocrat.
And listening to
an aristocrat over here, St. Joe's Preparatory School.
Listening.
I went to Bristol Preparatory School.
Listening for Harry Donahue to say 218 is closed today, and I'd be like, yes, can stay in bed.
School was closed. 218 was your number.
218 was our number. Yes.
How dare they close St. Joe's Prep? All that money that flows through there, like you couldn't get to school.
The best part about it was, even though it's part of the Philadelphia Catholic League, it didn't quite fall under the Philadelphia Catholic and Philadelphia Parochial School thing. So they were their own separate. So we had our own separate number. So it was good. It was great. So always have to listen for our number.
Yeah, very nice. I didn't have a bus system. My school was so small. There's no bus system, so you had to schlep it to school. Yeah. So they never called school off. Put your boots on. There's no buses that are going to get held up. Walk to school.
Exactly.
That's what we had to do, and that's why I'm so supremely educated. Never missed a day of school. All right. Sad moment that we turned into a lighthearted moment. This is another interesting moment. I don't know how many people listened to the podcast I did last year.
I did.
You did?
I loved it.
Thank you very much. It was called The Coldest Murder.
I'm a true
It's an idea I've had for a really long time. When I was 7 years old, this murder happened in the church that stunned the town of Bristol Borough. It was in a church called St. Mark's Church. A little girl named 9-year-old girl named Carol Ann Doherty was raped and murdered in the church loft. The case went unsolved for 60 plus years. My cousin, who we called Uncle Vince, was the police chief in Bristol. They tried to turn over. It's the difference between investigating a murder in 62 as opposed to now. It's like light years. So they could not find enough evidence. There was no DNA in existence. And this was an unsolved murder for 62 years. It haunted anybody who was near that town, especially the people who lived in that town. it haunted me. The day it happened, my cousin, the police chief, had called my mother. I was outside playing football with my brother, and he was emphatic and get your kids in the house. And she said, well, why? I really can't tell you, but get your kids in the house. Well, why? Because there may be a murderer on the loose. And that's how we found out about it. And for all these years, this case has been in my head. And I always said to myself, one day I want to do something about it. So I went about putting my journalistic hat back on, and I went reinvestigating the whole thing and turned it into a 14-episode podcast, where at the end, the conclusion that we reached in the podcast was that the murderer was a certain individual named William Schrader. Yesterday, that was confirmed by the Bucks County DA's office in a press conference that they had gathered enough evidence, including a pubic hair analysis, to finally determine that the murderer of Carol Ann Doherty was William Schrader. And I could not be happier for the family. The sister of Carol Ann, who was 3 years old at the time, was at the press conference, visibly emotionally distraught over the whole thing, because it's bittersweet. You get some kind of a closure, Anthony, on this situation, but you still, there's a hole in your heart from the loss that her older sister could have been a sister of hers for life and an aunt for life to the children of her children, was no longer there. And it touched me deeply emotionally. And yesterday, it was really gratifying to find out that these investigators in the Bucks County DA's office, who put a lot of resources into it, and I hope that I had something to do with that, but they finally found the killer to put this case to rest.
Yeah, great stuff, Mike, by you. I loved the podcast. I listened to it. I know that there were 3 other potential suspects,
including the priest at the church, who a lot of people thought had done it because he was later brought to light as a predator priest, and he had a really checkered past in abusing children. So a lot of people in the town always thought it was the priest, but as it turns out, it was this drifter guy who had been in trouble all of his life, who wound up going to Louisiana to escape Bristol and to escape prosecution, and wound up getting convicted for manslaughter down there. It was just a bad seed of a human being, just a creep of a person. And finally, listen, he's passed away, so he's not going to get his punishment. But hopefully, God has already dealt with that. So on that note, Anthony,
just real quick on that, Mike. I just wanted to ask you, like, how long did you just find out yesterday that they had this, or because of your involvement, did you know like a few days in advance?
The DA called me 2 nights ago and said there's going to be a press conference. We'd like for you to attend because the sister and her daughter are going to be there, and we think that you should be there to see this conclusion. She wouldn't tell me at the time, but we suspected all along, and I had been in conversation with the Bucks DA, Jen Shorn, who was a great DA, and she's up for re-election. In fact, I don't want to stump for her because she's got her own ways of running for office. But we stayed in touch, and she admitted to me that me keeping this in mind's eye really helped shed more light on it and kept investigators diligent to find out to close this case out.
That's awesome. That's great. That's great work by all of you. But I mean, really, like I said,
it was very gratifying.
I listened to it for entertainment purposes because I like true crime, but I know it was personal for you. So really,
Anthony, great work. Thank you very much. Let's close this baby down. This is the first podcast, the Mike Missanelli podcast with Anthony Cianfilippo. We'll be at you live every Thursday right here at 2:00 on the On Patterson Network. How else can they see the podcast, Ann?
It lives on the On Patterson YouTube page. So just search for On Patterson, hit subscribe and like. And that way, when you do that, you'll never miss a podcast. You'll know whenever we're going live. You'll get a reminder on your device and you can just tune in right away, but you can always catch up after the fact. And Mike, I do stream it through my X account as well at AntSanPhilly. So if you follow me on X, you can watch it there as well.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks everybody for tuning in today. Thanks for all the comments. We really appreciate it. And we're off and running. So thanks everybody for listening. For Anthony Cianfilippo, I'm Mike Missanelli. We'll take care.